The idea of these workshops, they were started, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's all a bit of a blur really, years ago. And they were just going to just be something. And then eventually we were going to die them down and just not really talk about everything. But they've remained very popular, as you can tell. So that's really nice. So thank you for your support. So I am a psychologist, practicing psychotherapist, in various ways. I've done over 20 years of learning, because that's clearly my shit, isn't it? You're not clever enough, keep learning. And I've looked at even doing 2 PhDs, but it's really not worth it. It wouldn't change anything for me. But it'd be quite nice to be Dr. Deb of Kink, I feel. That'd be quite nice. But I haven't quite gone there. The idea of these is that it's a Q&A, so it's down to you. And what normally happens is people turn around and say, oh, I'm not fucking asking a question in public, or I'm not asking. And then it warms up, and at the end, I'm like, fuck, I can't answer all these questions, or you try and grab me outside. And I don't manage that either. So there's no such thing as a stupid or a bad question. There just isn't. They can be anything about fetish, anything about kink, anything about power exchange, anything about communication, anything about pain, anything about mental health, anything about polyamory in all its forms. So, or history, genetics, epigenetics, even of us, like, it's a bit of a test really, isn't it? You asked me a question. Anyone else here know a lot about this stuff? Anyone else here a therapist or?
I'm a therapist, but I am an enthusiast.
A massive enthusiast. So can't bullshit too much then, that's the problem. If you are a therapist or you're into psychology or you work in psychology, you can contact me on FetLife or anywhere else as well, and you can ask me for a free CPD certificate. They are worth about, I don't know, worth about 100 quid, aren't they nowadays? 60 quid or whatever. So I'm happy to do that for you if you are in that sort of work. Anyone here a neuroscientist or anything else like that? No, thank fuck for that then, if you ask that sort of question. So I've been actively submissive since I was 17, and I was 60 in June. So it's a long time. And on top of that, I've made it my area of specialism and knowledge for my work. And people go, do you just see kinky people then? No, I don't. And funny enough, even kinky people don't really want to talk about kinky things. They just don't want their kinky things judged. So, if I want to come and say to you, I'm depressed or I've got anxiety or whatever it is that they're going through, what's interesting is it's rarely connected to kink. If it is, I'll fucking tell you. I'm dead straight as well, but, well, I'm not, but you know what I mean. So the idea is that you ask any question that you like, and I take it from you. So anyone got a question that they'd like to start with straight away? Blimey, I feel like I've just gone, going for 20, going for 25, yeah.
So I've got a new partner, and she's...
I will repeat it in a minute.
So she's more submissive, and she's kind of confused recently. She said that she's interested in structure. So she wants to, for example, be broken, but she wants to be broken by impact play, by content impact play. But then she says she's not a masochist. But I'm unsure. Like, I've never come across that before, where she's talking about the structure of the thing. It seems to us it's very structured, but I don't understand how she's doing something she doesn't like, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the question was, new partner, submissive, please correct me if I get anything wrong. And she's basically saying, through a structured scene, she wants to be broken. Anyone else here use that word? Or no, that I want to be broken. And then preferably through some form of impact play. But you're saying you don't understand, especially she's not a masochist, why she would do it that way, or why she wants it even. Her choice of process. Anyone else got an opinion on that? So she's not a masochist, but she wants to be broken. So your sub is the same? Right. So it becomes his release mechanism, and the only time you know is when he's hurt and he's crying. Anyone else relate to that if they're submissive in any way, shape or form or switchy? Not many. Interesting. So a lot of us do ask to be broken. And often, if we can't get through, so when you think about neuroscience, you think about emotions and you think of different things, what you've also got is environment and conditioning. Who here is not very good at feeling things, do you think? Or who here is, like, put your hand up. Who here is more of a thinker or a perfectionist or a people pleaser? So we're not born that way. They're all very much about our conditioning. And often being submissive is about pleasing people and others. And how entitled are we then in that moment? So if we don't know how to get through to something, it feels like a barrier. And often it's because she isn't a masochist. That's exactly why she's choosing it. Because she's not going to enjoy it. It's not fun, but it will help her feel. I used to say years ago, oh, submission makes me feel, or I feel like this when I'm submissive or when I'm playing or doing something. And I would always finish that sentence, but actually I don't need to finish that sentence. What I really need to say is it helps me feel. It doesn't really matter what comes after that. So it releases, it's an emotional release. And it's really interesting what all those pain mechanisms and the neuroscience of pain is and that release. You're also taking something for somebody else, so it becomes a permission thing of, you didn't really do it, they did it to you. So you're allowed then to have that physiological response. But there are so many. If you do anything like this, it's no different to being beaten by a stranger. Hear me out for a second. I understand we've got consent and everything else as well. But when we've got people in real slavery or real circumstances, we often use fear as a form of beating someone up, keeping them subdued. That's not submissive, we keep them owned. There's a real difference in DS relationships when you have the power exchange when it comes to the aftercare. And when you give the right aftercare in these scenarios and circumstances, people can learn and feel differently. But if you don't give the aftercare that's needed, the lesson doesn't go through properly. So it becomes a release mechanism because we've got all those chemicals that go on. So when you are playing, whether you're giving or receiving, because it's actually irrelevant, what chemicals are released, do you know, in your bodies? Sorry, dopamine. So what's dopamine? What does it do? It is a sort of feel good. It's that dopamine is a hormone. So we're talking about hormones, and they're all about that anticipation. And it's a bit like it's your coach. When it's like, ready? Okay. So dopamine's really good for that, gets us going. That's really good. So what other things are released? Oxytocin. What's that one? Do we know? The cuddle hormone, the love drug. And I always say this, my eldest, when she was at uni, when she was studying, worked for Jo Malone, and it was owned by Jo Malone at the time. Do you know the shop? Pretentiously expensive candles and smelly stuff. Fucking big candle, like, Jesus, what, 120, fuck off. But what they used to do is they would say, hi, come in, how lovely to see you. Would you like a hand massage? Anyone ever been in there? So you got it? So they would take their hand, because Hal's being very lovely and gave me his hand. And what they would do is while you're smelling all the smells in there, they would start to massage your hand. Why? The what, sorry? Rhythm of stroke and frequency might come into it. You're more likely to buy something because somebody just said it. It's
the association. So you associate the smells with the good feeling.
You can associate the smells, but the biggest thing is when you hold your partner's hand and you massage your partner's hand, it's one of the main release functions of oxytocin. So this is your cuddle hormone. Like when COVID happened, so everyone's grabbing everyone else's hand now and saying, hold my hand, hold my hand. So if you want someone to love you or like you more, eye contact is really important, focus, that's the big thing, and holding their hand. So that's really important, especially if you give them a slight hand massage. Honestly, I know most people in this room won't agree with me, more effective than a fucking blowjob. I know as you're watching that person on their knees thinking, no, hands. And I don't mean wanking, I mean hands. Holding hands, massaging, touching hands. And their sales went up. It's a very clever bit of psychology. It's brilliant. They don't do it so much anymore, but that is fucking clever. That's going to make you want to buy, because you go, oh, I love that shop. I love that smell. I love this place. Who here's got that for a particular product in some way? I have over a fucking ridiculously expensive face cream. La Prairie, if anyone knows La Prairie. Elemis, if you've got it. So certain smells, like I get out, it's probably about 80 quid's worth, my fucking fingernail full. I'm like, oh, I love that. Oh. And we just keep reiterating it. So, and especially if we're using our hands. And over COVID, we became skin hungry because we weren't getting a lot of these things. And even when you go back in time and you look at Spanish flu when it happened, which was American flu because it started in America, typical Americans, let's just blame somebody else. I didn't say that out loud. Sorry. Well, as long as you're not a Trump fan, you can stay. So, you're here. So, yeah, it's very true. So, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because there is something about, even after when Spanish flu happened and the second wave and everything happened, even in that time, 1900s, they had things afterwards straight away, like petting parties. If you do the research, it's really interesting, where people could have some form of physical or sexual contact straight away because they'd missed it so much. So even then they knew, and we had the same. So all of our STIs, STDs, whatever words you prefer, all of these things just went really down, the same as flu. They went, and people are like, God, it's amazing. Well, not really, it's fucking logical. You're not having sex. Not with strangers or people you don't know so well. And there is no such thing as safe sex. Doesn't matter how wrapped up you are or whatever. There are a lot of things that get passed along. But we were really hungry. So people's appetite went straight up as soon as they could. But really, that skin hunger is not just about sex. It is about all of these hormones. Do you know any more? So we've got dopamine released and we've got oxytocin released. Anything else? Adrenaline. So that's called very different things at different times. Norepinephrine. That's the shit that gets put into your heart when your heart stops. It's like, well, hopefully, because otherwise you're not in a good shape. So that's the stuff that gets you excited, gets you going, gets the fear, gets your heart racing, and you're like, that norepinephrine that gives us energy. So when we're playing and when we have sex, we get a shit ton of energy from it as well. So all these things are coming into play. Is there another one as well? Serotonin. So what does serotonin do? Happy. Happy clappy. Yes, kind of. I'm not asking you, but if you take an SSRI, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, if you take an antidepressant, basically you've got these things in your brain, so you've got these pathways, and they don't touch, they're like branches, they sort of talk to each other, and the only way I can describe it, which I've used for a lot of people in the past, is this one's feeling very horny, it comes over this one's face, it's the best descriptor you'll ever get, trust me, and this one goes, yum, 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 thank you very much, right? Scoops it all in and takes it all in. But the problem is it takes the serotonin with it because that's a very inefficient method of discussion in our brain. So what it does is these messages that are sent over, synapses and neurons, for those of you who want the science, instead of just coming over this one, it's like, well, that's really inefficient. Because if you did that to me in the middle of our session, I'd go like, oh, fuck, we're off for half an hour now because my eyes are killing me. So you've got to be very good and directional, and that's what serotonin does. It coats the message and puts it over. We think that serotonin that stays in the brain makes us happier. The research isn't actually conclusive on that one, but never mind. So a lot of serotonin, when we take SSRIs, a lot of it can be psychological. Fuck, if a load of you are on it, I'm really sorry. There are different ways to create it in your brain, especially through food and different habits that we can have. But it just stops all that serotonin, from being soaked up into the other synapse and neuron. So the SSRI, the inhibitor, makes it stay in your brain more, in theory, to feel a little bit happier. So again, when we want to be broken, we want to feel things, we want a lot of these hormones. Is it effective? Can we break someone? Truly, no, we can't. So long term, I would ask her, what does she mean by the word broken? What is it she wants to feel afterwards? What is it she is after, or he, or they? The gender's irrelevant because this happens a lot. Can you tell me what broken means? Because for some of us, it's about feeling. For some of us, it'll be, I want you to rebuild me the way you see it. Maybe I'm massively into power exchange, or I want to be totally yours. They are very core decisions. They aren't coming from somebody else. It's all about the reflection.
I asked her that.
Oh, so you did ask her. She wants to feel powerless. There are many ways to make someone feel powerless. Honestly, this is facetious, so please hear it as facetious. You want to make someone feel powerless, say, give me access to all of your money and you can't have any of it. Funny that, we don't want to do that. Most of us. Like, if you want to ask a dom or a sub or whatever we are a really, really good question, I would do anything for you. Give me your bank cards and give me all of the codes and you can't have them anymore. Do you still want to do anything? It's funny how it changes. So that's an answer, right? I want to feel powerless, but we're after something more. That, for me, that's the tip of the iceberg. So the feeling, the real core one, is something about underneath. There's something else going on. And John Delaney, if you don't know who he is, he's a therapist who writes loads of books. I always say the bottom of the iceberg, but he came up with a really good phrase a little while ago, and I really like it. He spoke about proxy arguments. Often when we're arguing with a partner or we're not getting on very well or something else is happening or we've got a problem, we talk about this, but we don't fucking mean this. We mean this, but we don't want to say it. So I would still even investigate further. What does powerless mean? Because I can tie you up for hours and just leave you there shitting and pissing yourself. You're going to feel powerless. Or I could take all your money, or I can out you. You want powerlessness? Like, of course we're not going to. I hope we're not going to do those things. Please don't do that to anyone. I was just saying upstairs, I'm completely out. I've been outed on Facebook and other places more than 3 or 4 times. And of course, when you're a pervert, that also means paedophile, which is great because I also work with kids. So when I would be curious, and it's very psychological because that is a psychological thing, isn't it? What is it about the situation? Why this way? What is it you want? How do you want to feel afterwards is always a good question. It's like sometimes if you're doing a session as a therapist with somebody, it's a really simple thing. At the end of the 50 minutes, what do you want to say you've got or changed, or how do you want to feel? That rarely takes just 15 minutes. CBT, can you change me in 6 weeks? Not that kind of CBT. So the therapy kind. I don't offer personal services. So when we're after something at the end and we want to experience a change and a shift, but also if you want a shift to be long term. Anyone here have had massive fluctuations in their weight? I certainly have. And then sometimes we might say, I really want to lose weight, or really put weight on, or you have to change your whole lifestyle and your relationship with food, which is psychological and physiological. You can't just do it. It's deeper than that, and it takes a long time, and it's the same for this. Why do we want to be broken? What does it mean? What is she after? How does she want to feel after that? What's the long-going impact of that? Because also, if you really beat someone, this is really contentious. I don't think consent truly exists. I think we can consent for a moment, we can consent for an experience, but we're also consenting for our perceived notion of what's about to happen and the consequences of it. Being 60 and having played for as long as I have, I need fucking steroids here, right down here for my bursa. And at the moment, so that's that hip joint on both sides, because I've loved being punched. I've loved quite aggressive play, violent play over the years. Kind of learned that's maybe not the best for me. But like my bursa have split and it's caused other issues. And people say, what's that from? Dance, I say. But and do other things come into it? Does my neurodiversity come into it? Yes, with its comorbidities, like you've got hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos, it all makes a difference. However, if you are consistently damaged in the same place again and again and again, it is going to have a long-term effect. So I didn't consent to this, to where I am, because I didn't fucking know. So again, what are the long-term implications of that? Because if we break someone and someone creates a connection with us because you're the powerful one and you broke, what happens if you want to leave? What happens if you then decide that isn't for you or the relationship's done and that person is quite dependent now? There's so many fucking things to think about. But what I really love is that you ask the question, you are thinking about it. You haven't just gone in with, hey, get me this stuff and I'm going to fucking show you. Because we don't always understand, like, what's going on for them that day, what over-the-counter drugs do they take, what under-the-counter drugs do they take, what are they prescribed, what was their day like? There's so much going on, and at different times we have different abilities to manage our feelings. What time of the month is it? Huge impact on our hormones. Changes us entirely. We even find different people attractive at different times of the month for different reasons. The more feminine, the more masculine, if we go into the basic of those genders that go across that range. And I'm not saying there are only two genders here. So the extremity of one to the other. That attraction varies according to the time of the month and the hormonal impact as well. So there's so much in there. Anyone else ever wanted to be broken? Because I certainly have said that in my past, break me. But being an old twat now, literally and metaphorically, it's interesting because I don't feel that anymore. I don't, and I don't want someone to break me. Like, it's changed.
There was a good one quite a few years ago.
Do you want to do that?
Oh, okay. There was a good one quite a few years ago that made lots of writings of your kinks, your kink, but not mine, or whatever the writing was. Yeah, which was over somebody pretty much being broken in the way they liked on the cross. I was actually doing rope in the aftercare area, so I saw this sort of puddle of mush that was carried back. But yeah, other people said it was uncomfortable being in the room, didn't agree with it. So yeah, what level is broken?
I agree with that. I've been at parties where DMs have maybe, you have to warn them about what you're about to do. I remember one of the Extremely Wickeds years ago where this person was in a hood, in a straitjacket, walking with bells all round. There were about 7 or 8 piercings that acted like a chastity. So the piercings were rings that went through both holes. And each of the rings had bells on. And I'm going to assume a gender just for now, because the guy that was with her, he was fucking caning those piercings and those bells. She was ringing the whole night. And she was bleeding all the way down her legs by the end of the evening. And some people go, that's too much. Some people might say it's not enough. And it's all really relevant, isn't it? What is broken anyway? Because sometimes someone can look at you. I talk about emotional temperatures, not just physical ones. Depending on how you are, somebody says boo and you go, oh my God, like, you could be broken just from someone saying the wrong word. But other days, it's going to take a fucking steam train to take you out. So how much is too much and when? And again, what about the damage that's done? So years ago, I met a couple who came to me, and in the end, I was like, no, you have to stop caning her ass. You've got to stop. You've got to find something else to do. And we talked about it, and you're like, how dare you say that? Every time you just touched her ass, it would fall open and bleed. Her skin was so damaged. So we had to look about healing, the right sort of nutrients for healing. I'm just about to write a whole piece on nutrients and BDSM and sex, actually. So I've got that. I write quite a lot, if you haven't followed me. So I've just finished putting this one together about the right sort of nutrients for different forms of play, connection, sex, and why, and what heals and what helps. So it was looking at her diet, it was looking at everything else as well to help her heal. It was over a year before she could take anything again. We had silicone patches on her ass. If you've had surgery or anything and you're quite healed, silicone patches are your best friend. They're really, really effective and impactful. They're even good on BDSM injuries, but only after there is no opening, if that makes sense. Anyone seen silicone patches? Silicone patches. So what any surgeon will tell you, anyone here, medical, know this stuff? So silicone patches, you can buy them anywhere, and you can put them on. It helps with healing quite a lot afterwards. Would you agree with that as a medical-based person? You can say no and yes, it's all good.
To a certain extent, yes.
But it's also, go on.
Silver patches work really well.
As in silver colloidal help, so that's more a natural principle. And it's often, you can get patches, but you can also take it as well, can't you? But in moderation. it helps with the scar and it helps with the healing. But the things that really help with the healing, especially on skin, you're going to look at your vitamin E's and some different ones as well. But the other thing you can do is if you've got vitamin E oil capsules, I went through a window face first when I was 21 and I had 28 stitches in my face. Broken nose, you can still feel it. This was hanging off from here to here, massive scar, and it was all around my eye. You can still feel where it was. But one of the things the plastic surgeon said to me at the time was, prick a vitamin E oil capsule, take it out, rub it in, but that's a minimum part of healing. It's inside out. So eating and drinking the right things makes a real difference. And actually another quite strong natural healer, if you want to go down the natural path, is pineapple, especially for throats and colds and things. So a lot of surgeons will recommend if they're into that. So it's what you eat afterwards as well. It's not just about what you put on it. But silicone patches, colloidal silver, you can buy them in plasters. They're really good for piercings. But I keloid scar, so I push a lot of piercings. They move. Hence, piercing play is on my list of don't fucking do it unless you're willing to invest in the aftercare. Because all of a sudden I've got a lump, she says, with 18 piercings in one ear. So, but they go every so often, and one's going at the moment. I can feel the skin closing around it and having to push it out and work with it. And maybe eventually needing some form of antibiotic care. Not always. It's the benefit of going to America every year. You can just buy antibiotic cream and put a little bit on, whereas you can't in the UK. So all these things are taken into account when we do something as what we see as break me. And then what will that do to us psychologically and emotionally afterwards? What's the dependency? What's the care? Anyone ever felt broken or really hurt by someone in a session before? It's taken you to your nth degree. Okay, so a few people are really nodding. You feel differently afterwards, don't you? It's a huge impact, whether you're the top or the bottom sometimes. There's a different connection, and it can be positive and it can be negative. And that, again, through neurochemicals and neuroscience, I've just got massive writing on this recently. It's about the aftercare and the care that you give and how much you're there and available for. And aftercare, often we need to negotiate that. It's Monday, I'm at work, you're at work, but I wanted you here the whole time and I want you to be my duvet buddy isn't always possible. So asking is really important, but understanding the chemical aspect and the neuroscience aspect is also really fucking important so it doesn't do damage rather than good. So it's a big ask. And it also doesn't take a lot. I think we forget. Do we all know that most of what we do is illegal? Do you really get that you are breaking the law? Do you? Because some of you look a bit, what the fuck, am I? Do you know the law? So not written there, so that's fine. So you've got a couple of laws that we still break. So you've got Offences Against the Persons Act from the 1800s, because we're that modern in the UK. And you've also got the Spanner case and a couple of others as well that have a huge impact on the legality of what you do. Do you know what those laws are? So they're really the best way to think about this is anything that's left more than a trifling or transient mark. Right, so have you heard that before? Anyone ever had a bruise from play? Lasted more than a day? Broken the law. Both of you, by the way, for receiving and for giving. Anyone here ever made someone bleed? Definitely breaking the law. Certainly more than trifling or transient. Anyone here ever left a slap where the handprint leaves a mark? Yeah, potentially breaking the law depending on how long it lasts for. So there are different levels of harm that you can do. It's better to say that any harm is bad, but technically it's about around a level 3, which is about the trifling and transient really comes in. Oh, you can put another poster up, it's even better. So you've got to be really careful because it's agreeing to it that's also the problem. You cannot legally consent to violence against you. So the person receiving... that's really funny. Thanks, Rick. You're a beautiful human. Lower, higher. No, it's higher. Kidding. More to your left. Bit higher. I mean, I have so much to say about that. And if you're looking for a hole, that's about you. It's not about her, just so you know. So there is no consensual SM defence, as that says. And these are the couple of acts. You've got Offence Against the Persons Act, 1861. You cannot consent to your own assault. You cannot consent to anything that's more than trifling or transient. I remember one of my clients phoning me once saying, fuck, help, I've just been arrested because he'd done some caning fully consensually. She said, cane me so I bleed, and then fuck me. And when you finish fucking me, pull out, come all over and kind of rub it in. So he wakes up the next day to a very blood-encrusted, cum-encrusted bed. She's left. She went straight to the police station. And boy, there's a lot of evidence there. But luckily, because of all the stuff they had written down, look, you're not going to get prosecuted very often. But if you get investigated, that's your issue. Because if they investigate you, they will take every piece of electronic equipment that you have and look at everything that you have. Anyone here fly to the States regularly? If you've got photos, fucking hell, please take them off your phone. And even just take FetLife and other places like that just away, just for a bit. Because you have to understand that when you travel, boy, you've got different people in charge then. So people have to have a warrant to go into a house. Not when you're talking about this. So, Serious Crime Act, Section 76, controlling or coercive behaviour in an intimate or family relationship. 2015 was when the domestic violence law changed. So we think of domestic violence mainly as physical or sexual. No. It's really not. Who here has ever told somebody else what to do and how they should do it? Told them what they can't do? Told them they can't go out with their friends that night? You're doing this, be a good girl, be a good boy. No, we're not doing that. You've got to do this. Potentially coercive control. Again, breaking the law, even consensually. Sexual Offences Act, that's 2003. Trafficking for sexual exploitation. That was changed in the Modern Slavery Act. But if you go and ask Cosmic here about his experience about this one, took up 2 years of his life. 2 years of his life. He's busy having a great time with his partner. Doors busted in, they come in, they separate them immediately because unfortunately he's also fucking somebody who's French. Big mistake. Not that she wasn't nothing to do with her being French. She comes from a different country. International, they've come in, fucking hell. So basically someone's accused him of trafficking them from America to over here. And they've heard all about this amazing thing called informed consent. If you're old, you might know what that is. And they want to find about it because one part of informed consent was the slave registry. So that number there is my slave registry number. I've had it tattooed on me because it does mean a lot to me. And I've had it for years and years and years and years. And you can register whether you're owned or not owned. It's not very functional anymore, but that's what it was at the time. He got investigated for 2 years. None of his own electronics. And if you ask him about it, he'll tell you how fucking horrific it was. They found bits of paper and stuff related or drawings. And then when we all found out who it was and why it happened, you were like, no, surely not. But yes, the person has written a blog, complained about it. He's made a few fantasies for this person come true. This is going to sound very bad. I'm really aware of how this sounds. However, I think it's a question that you're asked. When you look at sort of like slave trafficking, when you have those images in your head, who is likely to be taken? Who do they take mainly? Sorry? No, they take young women. So they tend to, if you're going for sexual exploitation, so you want people to work in some form of sex work and it's forced. No, it's okay, that's just carrying on the explanation. So who are they most likely to take? Young women, preferably, potentially children. This was we all really loved her at the time. This was an awesome human in their late 40s, near enough permanently in a wheelchair, with all sorts of other things going on as well. Even as a target, very unlikely to be trafficked, unless it's for a particular fetish maybe, or I don't know, but we target really young women and children who tend to not have a lot of people at home or the lure of a job or something else. And of course, when they met his partner at the time, who was French, as I say, they separated her and said, do you need to talk to anyone? Are you okay? Are you safe? Which is good. Fucking hell, though. Partner. Long-term partner. It was a mad time. And if you talk to him, the impact that it has. So again, we've got to be very careful. You've even got Criminal Justice Immigrants Act, but that's similar to when we talk about trafficking. It's really these ones that really have a big impact on us. Anyone here ever been to the doctor with unexplained bruises? I remember once having a migraine and I had to call the doctor over because I just couldn't move. And then I remembered what I'd done 2 nights before. And she wanted to put an injection in my arse. And I was like, fuck. I don't mark easily, so this was a very brutal scene. Now, luckily, again, I'm quite out. This was a new doctor, and I said, oh, maybe look at my notes. Fucking covered in shit. And she said, are you safe? Is there anything you want to tell me? I went, I'm really good. Just got a really bad migraine. But again, she can report that. She doesn't need my consent or permission to report it. She can just do it. Doctors, social workers, you can. We all can, if we're worried about someone. So again, if you're going to go to that level of violence, if somebody then changes their mind, what have you got in writing? I had a client years ago, come back to you in 1 second, had a client years ago, and I put a warning up about this on FetLife because she was very clear about protected sex only. No stealthing. Stealthing is the removal of a condom in the middle of sex from a penis to a vagina or an arse, regardless of whose they are. So stealthing is now carries a lot of the similar sentences to any form of sexual assault and rape, because of course STIs, pregnancy, and everything else as well. So you're really not allowed to. She was very clear about this, and they were in an office where he worked. He took her to an office in the middle of the night. That's a little strange for a start. But having a great time, she's made her limits very clear. In the middle of passion, again, let's talk about those fucking hormones that we get overrun with. She says, do what the fuck you want with me. Ooh. Which one is more relevant, what she said before or what she just said? No, what she just said. She gave him permission without even realising. So he took the condom off and came inside her. You have to write and state things along the lines of, regardless of what I say in the throes of passion, this is a hard limit. No matter what I say, it's not permission, stick to it. Fucking hell. And also, anyone heard of retroactive withdrawal of consent? Fuck me, I'm getting really depressive now, and I am coming back to you, I promise. But we give consent in a moment, but then we can withdraw it afterwards. Well, actually, I didn't really know what was going to happen, or I don't want that, or I'm not going to give consent to that. It's a bit late, but then that can cause a lot of issues as well. And you cannot predict the response that you will have to certain sessions at certain times. And break me is a fucking big ask. You were going to say as well. Okay, so he was trampled and had a broken rib and went to the doctors. Fuck. So he lied and said it was a rugby injury. Can I just say, when you are medical, you know how injuries are caused and why and where? You really do. You can look at something and go, ha, yeah, that's a lie. Right. I will, yeah. So the doctor realised it was a lie and said, if you don't tell me the truth, I'll report you. Like, I see a lot of injuries in cheerleading. My daughter owns a cheerleading gym, and it's quite a dangerous sport. Believe me, I've watched bones come out of flesh so many times, dislocations and everything. And out of nowhere, we had a girl break, Jesus, she broke, I'm not going to go into bones and what they're called, but both the bones below her knee and her ankle just snapped. So her leg was just bent the wrong way. She only landed on the floor. She did a round-off back handspring, full twist, somersault, lands. She'd already landed 9 that day. Normal. That's what our kids do in the gym all the time. She lands, you hear like a thunder crack, like a squash ball or a shot. She hits the deck on her knees. We have a standard practice of everyone out. We do the same if you're in a competition, you'll watch the kids surround the person facing outwards so they've got complete privacy. Just snap, both bones. Clean breaks, it's good, very clean. In a cast up to here for ages. you just don't know what's going to happen always either. So, and that you don't know what somebody's going to report. So again, you've got to be very careful about that. Unfortunately, who here has ever said, I trust you 100%, you know, I'm going to get married to you, I believe everything that you say, or I'm going to live with you, I believe everything you say, and it turns out it's all a fucking lie and they've been a bit of a cunt or been betrayed. But in that moment, we're very happy to say it's all okay. We don't always know that. Like, fuck, I sound so pessimistic today. But we just got to be careful about, and one of my favourite expressions to myself is, what would the headlines tomorrow say if it came out in the papers? That's an interesting one to do. If that came out in the papers tomorrow, given my profession, given my life, given my family, what would I do? And that's an interesting one to answer as well. And also, what would she do? I want to be beaten within an inch of my life type thing. I don't think you really mean that. It's not like the films. You can't take 43 punches, jump over something and catch your whole body weight on a pole without fucking breaking, dislocating or doing something. I don't care how fit you are. That's really fucking hard and near enough impossible. And we can really hurt someone with just one punch in the wrong way. We know that. In fact, breath play is the most dangerous thing that we can do. It is pure edge play. And we don't think it is. We think waterboarding is more dangerous. No, it's not. No, it's not. People can die how quickly? Through strangulation or stopping breath, do you know? It's even under that, they'll pass out beforehand, so you don't know. And even in the last couple of years, there actually have been mainly, sadly, so auto-asphyxiation is mainly men in gender, strangulation is mainly women in gender. And actually, we have a real run now of people saying, it's the old BDSM defence. They consented to, they wanted it. You just chopped her up and put her in a suitcase. I don't think she consented to that. Because that happened in a town I live near Worthing. And then there's a young woman who'd gone over, and apparently that's all she really wanted, and that's how she met him. Again, you can't consent to it anyway. You can't. And it's a big increase, or people saying, well, I just didn't know. Can anyone here do CPR? Anyone, if you cannot and you're a top, please learn. You never know when you're going to need something. If you tie someone up, anyone here like bondage, have ropes and or chains, right? We like tying up and doing things. Do you have the correct scissors and the correct approach to be able to cut your rope? Open your chains. Have you ever done it? I mean, a lot of tops, they've never cut their own rope. You fucking kidding me? Learn to cut your rope. Check your scissors. Because you just never know. I mean, you're the expert on tying, but it's really fucking important. Do we know the right questions to ask when we play with someone about tying someone up, about, Jesus, blood pressure, all sorts? You're going to have these really long questionnaires after you've met me of, right, sit down for the next 3 hours before I decide I'm playing with you. Do you know what? One of the best questions I think we can ask someone before we play is, tell me about a time your play has gone wrong badly and what you did. That's a great question. Because if a lot of people turn around and say, nothing, I've never had anything go wrong. What, never? How long have you been doing this? 12 years. Fuck off, you liar. Number one. If things go wrong, what have you done? What would you do about it? What's your plan? Because when we pre-mortem, we're more likely to actually do it. So when you're sent up in space, if you want to be an astronaut, for example, you go blind statistically. It's almost definitely going to happen to you. So as someone who goes up, you have to do some basic engineering. So they teach you to do it with both eyes open, zero gravity. They teach you to do it with one eye shut, the other eye shut, and both eyes shut. So you practice it again and again and again. Because the tear build up, like, we've got 3 layers. We cry and seep and leak over sort of like 20,000 gallons of tears a year. I used to have a fucking swimming pool in my old house, 20,000 gallons. That fucking thing took 3 weeks to bloody fill up. That's a lot of water. So we've just got to be aware that when that's not coming out and it's going back into your eyes, lots of people who are up in space end up with eye infections. They have to practice it with their eyes shut. If you don't practice for the negative, for the bad, you're not prepared for it. So if we can't do CPR, if we don't know what to do for a basic injury, I really think we should get some training on physiology, anatomy, basic first aid. It's no good me knowing it. I'm the one tied to the fucking tree. So I can't resuscitate myself. I can't heal myself if something really bad happens. Have any of you heard of Rain de Grey? She's a big BDSM porn star. She was huge. So some of you know her, some of you don't. One of her most famous stories was she's got her dom. They go out into a forest. They're going to have a great time. She is tied to a tree. He's also a diabetic who does not look after himself. Are you with me so far? He's tying her to a tree. Guess what happens to him? He passes out while he's holding the rope at a certain angle, and while he does that, he dislocates her jaw. And they're in the middle of the forest with nobody around. Hey Siri is your best friend. Oh, yeah, no, mine just went. Have access to something, phone, rope, anything, because you just never know. He wasn't looking after himself. Jesus, he passes out. Off. It's not off, but he dislocated her jaw. Even Hey Siri, even that comment would be really hard with a dislocated jaw. But who would have thought that would ever happen? You just don't, do you? Anyone here had a scene go horribly wrong where things have happened? It's really worth talking to people where things have gone wrong. What sort of things? What did you have to do? It's really good to get that knowledge and say, thanks for the worst possible case scenario, but fucking hell, get the good ones as well. I'm not talking about them being negative, because great things can happen from scenes. I would also never agree to changing something mid-scene, because those chemicals we just talked about in our heads do not help with consent. Like, do whatever you want to be in that moment. Let's just leave that. Let's have a look at that tomorrow. Because regret's worse with what we do, I tell you. So is a jail sentence or an injury or anything else. I do feel like I'm the doom prophesy, but I think we're so hedonistic and we get carried away with how much fun we have, which is awesome, and we should have that much fun. We can do what the fuck we want with each other. Oh no, wait, we can't. But we can. We've got consent and it's lovely, but the consequences are different. Anyone here play a sport or do anything, ever had an injury because of it? Or got a hobby, ended up with an injury because of it in some way, shape or form? You don't plan for it, do you? You don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I do. If I get out my circular saw and I'm making something, I do think, fuck me, my thumb could come off with this motherfucker. I do. That does go through my head. But I don't think about it the same way when I'm playing or doing something. I think, it'll be okay. And you have to counter that sometimes. So it's such a huge question, which has taken me on a whole journey, but it is a big one to think about, because it's not just the physical damage, it's the psychological damage as well afterwards, and we just don't know what is going to cause an injury or harm in some way. Anyone here got long-lasting impact from BDSM at all? Or is it just me in this room? Oh, it's just me. Mind you, how many people have been playing or acting or doing this stuff for over 5 years? Over 10. Over 10 as a sub. Over 15. And longevity really counts. It's not just, I'm older and more experienced, that's fuck all. It really gets on my nerves. I don't know you. Who here is sort of like 25 or under and is a dominant? Anyone also? But we often say, all right, child, 25, you can top your way out of a paper bag. But when we meet someone who's 50, we don't say that to them. But that 50-year-old might have only started yesterday, and the 25-year-old's been doing it for fucking 7 years. They've got a load more experience, but we just judge people. I see it a lot in writings where people say, I just want an older man. For what? They could have been having really shit sex and play for a lot of their lives. We don't know, but we need to check it out. And actually, if we say, I want someone who's really experienced and been doing this for a long time with lots of people, sometimes if you meet a person who's just been monogamous, they might have done way more with their one partner. You don't know till you ask the questions, but we rarely do. We make these huge assumptions in our heads. Thank you for a brilliant question where I've gone fuck knows where on, but managed to come back. Anyone else got a different question?
As a sub, I'm really interested in like classical conditioning, and
So operant classical conditioning.
yeah, and also like
Can you hold
finger
that for me?
training, like shock collar. I'm just curious a little about the psychology of that, and like maybe some practical advice or ideas to use. That kind of thing.
So the question was really interested in classical conditioning. So that, have you heard of Pavlov's dogs? Anyone? Yeah? What do you know about Pavlov's dogs? He would ring a dinner bell while they were being given meat. They would salivate. Right. Yeah, so they would salivate, and then after a while, if they just rang the bell, the dog would still salivate. Anyone know about the experiment done on, I'm really sorry if you see me a lot, you'll already know the answer to this one. Anyone seen the experiment done on mice with the smell of cherry blossom? That's the people that know me. All right, are you fucking yawning? He's really tired, bless him. It's his age. The experiment with the mice and the smell of cherry blossom, I'm not talking about the ethics of animal testing here. Right? That's not what I'm saying. So that's another argument for another day. Exposed the mice to the smell of cherry blossom and tortured them at the same time. So their levels were extreme. After a while, so they're having a PTSD type response every time the cherry blossom smell was given to them. That's quite normal. It's not normal, but in this case, quite a normal response. But they did something different this time. This time what they did is they then made the mice pregnant. Females. The males made another group of mice pregnant. How many generations did the smell of cherry blossom go down to create a fear response? 5 in this particular experiment. And they weren't together at the time. So what we've got is transgenerational and epigenetic scripting. So operant conditioning 100% works. It is very effective behavioural conditioning. Anyone here watch like good old Sheldon and Penny? Do you know what I'm talking about? Big Bang Theory? There's one scene where Penny's doing stuff and he says, yeah, good girl. Feeds her a chocolate or something. Have you seen that? We are very responsive more to positive conditioning than we are to negative. So actually, if you want more effective long-term in that human for conditioning, you're better off doing it positively. However, we do respond to negative. But like I just said here, it's the aftercare that makes it stay. So if we just put a shock collar on someone, after a while, we might not reach for something. But if we then know the shock collar is off, we might instinctively not go to do it. But it also depends how much that's fighting against our behavioural and environmental genetics that we've been brought up with. And they're not genetics, but genetics are influenced, the way we read, the way you look at genomes and other things, they're influenced by environment massively. So if you've got a fancy for it, it can 100% work, depending on you, depending on the person, depending on aftercare. And I would start small and slow. People can be very cruel. If you look at like Stanford experiment, you look at the school experiment, you look at different experiments, we are cunts. When we start to hurt someone, does anyone know that shock experiment? Do you know what I'm talking about? So basically shocking somebody on the other side of a screen. And they ask the recipient to scream. But to say, fuck, I can't do it, I'm having a heart attack. Stop, please stop, really seriously. What did these fuckers do? Kept turning it up. We tend to do that. And when you've got like the prison experiment, a few of the others, people who played the guards went more and more and more extreme. They loved their power. And then they were hurting the others, psychologically, over food, everything. So we know that conditioning works. But what's interesting, do you want children? No. Okay. I'm going to say if you do very severe conditioning, think about your children. Rachel Yehuda, really interesting psychiatrist in the States, was looking about the transgenerational scripting of survivors of the Holocaust. So she was working with this group of people and she was like, they're really uncomfortable around people who wear uniforms, you think. They really often will have extra food in a bag. Why? Or they have all these habits and different things, which are all about survival. But what was interesting for her was the children were really similar. They had the same responses. So she was, well, it must be that they must have spoken about what happened with Mengele back in the days, very fucking hell. So it wasn't that, though. What they also did at the same time, because she was working with a geneticist in Edinburgh, they were testing cortisol levels. Do you know what your cortisol levels do? It's your stress response. It's your karma. So you feel really stressed. Cortisol goes, it's okay. Come on down. It's okay. It's good. And it keeps doing that. Can it keep doing it forever? No, it'll give you a heart attack. Too much cortisol. So, anyone here, your grandparents, shows how old I am. It's like when you have cortisone and different injections, so I can only have 4 a year because I can't have too much in my body. Because if you have a lot, your natural cortisol level drops to below. It's still like it can give you a heart attack, but you can't have too much. So they found as well with the epigenetics were really interesting, and it went down. They've now calculated at least 13 generations easily in humans. So if your great, whatever it is, grandfather or mother had some form of trauma, that could be your mental health problem. It's not just about you. Isn't that mad? So you not only get your own shit, you get some other fuckers from 300 years ago as well. And it does come down depending on the environment. The PhD I wanted to do was on the transgenerational epigenetic scripting of sexually submissive women. Sounds so exciting. I really want to read it. I don't actually want to write it, but I really want to read it because I think that's really interesting. How much of my great-grandparents or whatever influenced who I am because of sex, because of the way that I am. So when we condition people, it's going to last for generations. So that's just the only thing to bear in mind. But you're saying, well, I'm not going to do that. It's really interesting around play as well. Every time you play and what you're doing, look, ADHD, when we look at, I disagree majorly with Gabe Mate here, but who the fuck am I to say that? He's always like, oh, neurodivergence, especially ADHD, is not heritable. It's caused by trauma. It's not caused by one gene. He's right, it isn't caused by one gene. It's fucking caused by 27, you dick. It is utterly provable. 0.8, 0.89, some people say 7, heritability. Plus, you're brought up by a weirdo. I'm one of those weirdos, by the way. You're brought up by somebody who already feels like they don't fit in. You don't feel like you fit in. It goes down the generations. It's environmental as well. And again, that's about conditioning behaviour from birth, from a really young way of what matters and what doesn't matter. If you were to think of your family right now and you put a flag above your house of what the major message was, that's influenced you most of your life. Because you've either rebelled against it, that's still an influence, or you've gone straight into it, still an influence. Love and hate aren't different sides of the coin. Indifference is the opposite side of that coin. When we just go, oh, I don't know, I don't think about it. So pain can work. All the things that we're talking about, so you can use shock collars, you can use a slap of the hand, you can use a no. It's actually how we bring up children. A lot of the time, we're not so keen on consequential parenting at the moment. By the way, I say that really badly. I do not agree with that fundamentally. I have so many kids in my rooms who have major issues because they have no idea of consequence. None. Or they've got a real entitlement to, yeah, but I can. Or there's a big difference. You can feel angry, you're entitled, but you can't be an aggressive twat. There's a big difference between those two. And we need to teach children that because we have to go out into the real world. We also have to teach them that they are loved, cared for, and the positivity. So I'm not talking about... Gentle parenting actually does have a lot of consequence in it, but the extreme form of gentle parenting, where you bring yourself up, is a really bad idea.
There's a difference between gentle parenting and allowing parenting.
I agree. That's why I just tried to make that definition, because we call it all gentle parenting. So it's the permissive, allowing type parenting. And you can do the same, actually, with a submissive. If we're too gentle, yeah, you just do whatever you want. You're not going to have a great time as a top, probably. And we don't really want that if we're fairly submissive. We want to do what we want to do, but we also maybe want to please and do those things. So all forms of conditioning will work. Doesn't matter what you use, doesn't matter whether it's physical, doesn't matter whether it's mental. However, what's interesting, because I'm sure I've written about this recently, yeah, I think I have, all about the chemicals as well and the neuroscience. So if you follow me, it's in the last 3 or 4, 5 writings. It's really interesting, actually, positive reinforcement, good boy, good girl, good kitten, good dog, well done. We're more likely to respond to that long term than we are of the fear of not doing it again. Because eventually people will rebel from pain and will rebel from somebody trying to control them on some level, even if we want it. I want it, but I'm also going to say, fuck off and don't do that again, especially if somebody gets it slightly wrong. I hate being pinched or bitten. I might be in an amazing mindset. I've just been beaten black and blue. The person gives me a little bite and I go, well, you've just fucking ruined that scene then, haven't you? It's quite all-encompassing. So the way they do it really matters as well. Shock collars, as you said, any form of, but it's got to be fairly immediate as well. That's the other thing. If it's a bit like a dog or a cat, they shit or piss somewhere and people are going to rub your nose in it 3 hours later, they're just like, what the fuck have I done? They don't get it. We're the same. We might make the link logically, but we've got to make it physiologically so it hits both. So it's often better when we're with someone a lot. Shock doesn't, just to take that as an example, or immediate pain or immediate consequence. I personally do not agree with the immediate consequence of being ignored. When you look at the brain scans of babies, so my sister and I, when we were a lot younger, went to Romania, as it was then, to do some volunteering. I was pretty young. My sister was 18, I was 19 and a half. We both decided to go over. There were lots and lots of babies who were very ignored, and you can see it in some countries as well, where certain genders aren't allowed. You only had 1 or 2 children at that time. There were a lot of babies in orphanages. If I compare 2 babies side by side, I'm talking about under 1 year old, this baby has been sexually, physically abused. This baby has been ignored. Who has the worst brain? The ignored baby. Where actually you can see shadows, which is really interesting on fMRI scans, of almost like a butterfly shadow effect. And it takes years to overcome that, if they ever do. So negligence is a lot worse than punishment. So for me personally, I wouldn't go with lots of ignoring or whatever. So there has to be, for it to be effective and to be healing in an okay way, it's got to be carefully managed with aftercare and lovingly done within very agreed limits. So, and even if a limit is slightly broken, as long as there's, oh my God, don't take this as a permission, right? If a limit is slightly broken or slightly pushed and someone has discomfort, not you fucking cunt, you went too far. If it's within reasonable amounts, as long as there is love, care and understanding afterwards, it's healable and repairable. If it's gone too far, it isn't. It's all about our understanding as well. So any form of punishment will work, any form. It will make a difference. It will last genetically. It will impact the next generations. And it might not, especially with the very negative form of operants or conditioning that we get, it has to carry on a lot longer. Whereas the positive reinforcement, you can step away a little bit and then just notice every so often. Because if I do something really nice for somebody and I make them their favourite tea, I make them their favourite whatever, I've got it at home for them in some way, shape or form. When they say, good girl, I'm like, thanks. And it has a long-term effect. I'm more likely to want to go and buy that tea, that coffee, that Lucozade, whatever it is. Whereas if they sort of don't say anything, I'll be like, I'm not being bratty, I'll be like, they don't notice, they don't appreciate it anymore. And part of it is, that appreciation is actually more important than you think. I remember speaking to a couple years ago, their DS relationship had totally broken down. He was very much, it was a male, female, very much that's who they were, man, woman. He would come home from work, he's the dominant one, she's a submissive one, and they're both like, well, this isn't fucking working anymore, I don't get a bloody thing I want from this. Do you know what the easy fix was? It was really interesting because, again, a little bit like conditioning, the same thing. A lot of long-term DS relationships lose their play and lose their power dynamic, the same as the honeymoon period in vanilla. I was about to say normal, but who the fuck is normal? In vanilla relationships. So when that passion starts to dissipate, so does play sometimes for a lot of us. That maintenance, that care, keeping that going, if that's why you were attracted, it's got to stay there. Like, if it doesn't, you're going to look for it somewhere else potentially, no matter how much love you have for somebody. When I see couples, when I see thruples, and I see groups of people, which I see a lot in my room, love does not keep a relationship together, not by itself. When someone says, yeah, but I love them, okay. Unfortunately, that's not the glue. Sad, but it's not the glue, if you look at anything. So the Gottmans, who are really interesting researchers about relationships, talk about bids. If somebody tries to do something nice, if you don't notice enough, you can ignore up to 30% of bids. When it hits 31, your relationship starts to become doomed. And you think, well, I've got a lot of leeway there. Fucking 30 a day. Oh my God, it's in the tiniest of things. Really is. So he was complaining, I come home, she's so fucking needy, she's on her knees, she wants my cock in her mouth, or she wants to be beaten. Some of you are going, no, hang on, that sounds like heaven. Not if it's pressure. She wants to cook for me, she wants to do this, or I was like, okay. And she's like, but he doesn't want me anymore, he doesn't think of me, he's not planning for these things. And I just said to him, you do realise this is totally within your power to manage right now. I think his comment was, well, I wouldn't fucking come to you if I thought that. Fair point. All he had to do was write out 30 to 40 texts at work, have them, change a few words each time. Depending on what mood he was in, if he just texted her before he came home saying, get on your knees, fucking naked, at the door, let's say if you like the gore positions, like Nadu or whatever you want, like you can go for slave positions or whatever, and he would make it really fucking clear. It might be, I'm going to walk in through the door, I'm going to ignore you there for the next 20 minutes, but you're going to be a good girl and stay there, aren't you? It could be that he said, yep, when I get through the door, get me my cigar and my whiskey, love a cliche, get me my cigar and whiskey, or come and sit on the floor while I'm working because I have to do more work. It could be that, no, I want you to be my loving, affectionate partner, do it respectfully, call me sir, call me daddy, whatever agreement is that you've got, but listen to me and listen to my mood. Hundreds of ideas there. It changed their relationship because she felt like she was being wanted and seen. She had the right to ask for what she wanted as well, of course. However, just him doing that changed so much because all of a sudden he realised he was in control. Instead of just bitching about her, saying, fucking shit, honestly, drives me mad when I walk through the door. Just a simple tweak sometimes. And it really is simple. And we say, oh, I'd never get in that position. Yeah, we do though. We do get very complacent and cliched, and then we forget the little things that made the difference. Who here cleans their teeth once a day, minimum? If you've got your hand down, I'm not kissing you, is all I'm going to say. Right, so how often should you clean your teeth according to research and dentists and probably the people that create toothpaste? 2 to 3 times a day. After every meal. Or we could change the acidity in our mouth after every meal as well. That can help, like even a little lump of cheese or something, if we change the acidity. So, alkaline responses. Before any of you say to me, alkaline is a cure for cancer, fuck off. Having been through chemo and having had cancer twice, that shit doesn't work because your body is a lot of acid. And guess what happens to that alkaline water that you drink as soon as it hits your digestive system? Do the research. So it's really interesting that if you have to clean your teeth to maintain them, therapy is 1% of your waking time, 50 minutes a week. Is that going to change your life? No, you're going to have to do some homework and some real hard work on the things you want to change. Why would your relationship be any different? You still have to clean your fucking teeth quite a few times a day. When you start getting complacent, when you start just expecting or it's standard or you don't appreciate what someone else is doing for you, the relationship breaks down and changes. And that is also conditioning because we just get so used to those patterns that come in. So conditioning can be messages. Conditioning can be reward and punishment, and it can be a lot of pain, but the long term is still definitely the reward over the punishment. However, if you're really turned on by the idea of punishment, absolutely do those alongside as well, using any methodology that you want, as long as clearly it's very well negotiated and whatever. But it's a bit like I'm going to wear an internal vibrator, and if I turn around and say, do not put that on at 3 p.m. because I'm with a client, if you fucking put it on at 3 p.m., it doesn't work. There was a case, I don't know if you saw it last year, of a woman in a munch who had an internal vibrator in, operated by phone. Do you see this? And someone nicked his phone and started playing with it. So she was like, oh, this is great. He's controlling me. No, it was somebody who just picked up his phone. Number one, lock your fucking phone. They're quite hard to get into. If you've got anything like that on it, that's a consent violation by both, really. The lack of thought and the access. But the twat that picked up her phone, it's another story, isn't it? But again, those positive things, they all condition us, because now I'm going to go away if somebody done that as I can't trust you. I can't trust you to look after me and my stuff. So why would I then want to carry on being good? How long does it take to break trust? It's a fucking instant, isn't it? So it's a millisecond. How long does it take to gain trust? Ages and ages, months and months and months. And some of us are always looking for it to be broken, some of us aren't. I have a different philosophy around trust for me. I don't have to trust you. You may well do something wrong. My response is my choice. I might be hurt by what you just did. I might cry. I might get angry. I might do a lot of things, and I might go through an interesting flux afterwards, but I fucking trust myself and know that I'll come through that. So I don't have to trust you. I have to trust me. But that's a whole different area as well of I'll be okay regardless. And that can be too independent for some people if you're submissive. It is for a lot of people. A lot of people run away. I'm submissive. Oh, God, you don't sound like you are. So people run. So that comes into it as well. A lot of people will be attracted to conditioning you, which is very similar to break me on some level. And that can be great. But can you trust them? Can you be okay? You have to trust that you will be. Anyone here ever hear of sects? Not sex with an X, CTS, sects, cults. So when somebody comes out of a cult, so I've worked with people from the Jesus cult, and I've worked with a few others as well, as children and different people. My advantage for me is I've got like over 100,000 hours of seeing people, and by the time you hit that sort of level, you've probably seen most things in most ways, but everyone is unique, but we're not as unique as we think we are. And everyone says, oh, yeah, no, they're never going to recover from that. Every cult member at some point will just heal themselves. All therapy does is speed it up. And that's the problem with conditioning. So I've met people, we use the word narcissist like it's a sneeze. Narcissist. Everyone's a narcissist. Everybody is. There are a couple. Gaslighting is another one, isn't it? I don't think we understand the meaning of these words. Not really. Or the meaning of these titles. I meet a lot of people who say, my ex is a psycho or my ex is a narcissist. Really? Really? Do you mean the clinical definition of those things? Because they're not. However, they might be really selfish, really extreme, or different things. Having worked with a few people who've come out of cults, having worked with one person who was an extreme narcissist, couldn't orgasm afterwards, couldn't brush her own hair, couldn't do a load of things. All therapy did was speed up her healing slightly. It didn't change it. It just took a little less time because we naturally go to heal depending on our mental health, our environment, genetics, epigenetics as well, predispositions for different things. And that's why conditioning doesn't always last forever. Plus, we might not know ourselves around epigenetics and previous generations as to what shit is in there and why it's in there and whose is it. So again, that makes a really big difference. And we can't guarantee the answer on that one. We just think we might have a good idea about knowing ourselves. And that can make a big impact as well. So it will definitely work and you'll have a lot of fun while you're doing it, as long as it's within your boundaries and your limits. Will it last forever? The more positive aspects might do for you, long term. Sorry, did someone say something? There.
If I'm right, you mentioned about dog collars. If I was right, you mentioned about dog collars in the process. There've been a few talks and a few incidents with where people locate them. So, as a note, look out and research.
About where people put collars, is that related to that one or something? Placement really, really matters, the same as when you choke someone. How should you choke someone or how should you put pressure around their neck? Do you know? Never the windpipe. Yeah, that's the big one. So when you go into press, what's the shape of your hand? This. So if you're going to choke someone like that straight away, you can hear what's happening to my windpipe. Not good. However, we could then say, how should we do it? Should we go for arteries and major things? Own problems as well. Someone will pass out within seconds and different things. Collars are really important about how you place them and what you do. Especially if your partner has a collar that is like a standard buckled belt. Why should we worry about buckles? To get it off, you pull it tighter before you release it. Please think about that when you go to put a collar around somebody. It might be a bit too tight to restrict breathing. If it's a posture collar, is this the sort of question you're asking?
No, I think she mentioned electric.
Electric shock collars, okay. So electric shock really matters where it is as well, and it does. And again, that is down to your own anatomy. We all have a basic anatomy. Jesus Christ, if you ever go for a set of tests, I remember saying at chemo once, God, I keep getting these bad headaches. Fuck me, I'm immediately in every 3 months for a now fucking fMRI scan of my brain and CAT scans from body and brain. It's like, you try taking 18 piercings out for every fucking 3 months just to have a fucking scan. Oh, is my metal going to be ripped out? It's a lot. The placement matters, but knowing your own physiology matters as well. So again, major nerves, depending on where they are, and again, even the tightening of them really does matter. What I'm going to say is do your own fucking research. So also levels of shock. Levels of shock as well, for example, if your skin is damp, whether you are earthed or not, depending on the sort of collar that you've got, it makes a big difference as to how you're going to be shocked, the type of shock. Most of them are levelled at dogs. You are much bigger than a dog, but are you bigger than every dog? No, not by weight or anything else as well. So it's about relative. How much do you weigh and where is it placed? So same with all electrics, actually. Would you agree with that? Yeah. Anyone else agree? It's so varied as to what you buy. So like I've got a violet wand at home. That stuff, playing with a violet wand, they used to use it for nits. Did you know it was one of the reasons it was used for? If you've got a comb with it, it kills nits if you get it high enough on the shock system. Pretty cool. If your kid's got nits, all of a sudden you can just use your private play toys for a different reason. Gives you a much more legitimate reason to have them. But those fucking things, depending on the tool on the end of them, can also burn the fuck out of you and create a permanent scar, like a cautery pen or above, if it's really focused, depending on how high it is. Any electrics, where it is, how it is. Especially, you get different pain levels. Anyone here got tattoos? Quite a few. When you have a tattoo in certain areas, they hurt, don't they, more than others for different reasons? Like if you've got it, fingers, they say, bones. Some people will say, my ankle really hurts. Some people will say, I've got one all the way down my spine and a big piece across the bottom of my back. If you're fucking me from behind, you'll have seen it. If not, you won't. But it's quite a good piece. I quite like it. It's a little fairy. It gives you something to look at and read. So depending on where you get these things done, though, hurts on different levels. But pain is interesting as well because our pain receptors, although they're very similar places, and our insula and another few parts of our brain are really important, how we receive pain through the base of the spine, the way it comes up and how we perceive it, where it is really matters. But that's also, there are generics, but it's really fucking down to each individual as well. Because who here can take a punch and a half and go, nothing? And other people will turn around and say, flick, and they're kind of like, ow, that really hurt. It also depends what other things you've got. Anyone here neurodivergent? Quite a few people. So if you have neurodivergence, you need to look at things like POTS, MCAS, hypermobility and Ehlers-Danlos. If you have hypermobility and or Ehlers-Danlos, depending on what sort you've got, how you perceive pain, how you feel pain is totally fucking different again. Anyone here a natural redhead? Okay, so natural redheads, again, genetically different, have a totally different relationship with pain and anaesthetic, especially electrics. So when we're receiving or you're about to play with anyone who has any form of natural red hair in their family, please ask questions. On average, they need more help at the dentist. They go for the gold anaesthetic rather than the lighter one. They respond differently to anaesthetic, completely. They respond differently to pain. They respond differently when you're tying them up. Totally different set of questions if you're playing. And again, you might meet someone who's got brown hair and you go, oh, I'm all right then. No, ask the question. Any natural redheads in your family, especially your mum or dad? Oh yeah, my dad always grows a red beard. Let's have a different conversation then, for tying or for anything. So placement of things, it matters so much. There are so many questions, and it's not just about placement. It's about genetics, epigenetics, it's about all of these things. But again, fuck me, that's a 4-hour interview probably before you play. But we have to bear these things in mind. And I think it's really important. I always say it's really good to write. Anyone here old enough to know what a Haynes book is? for your car or motorbike or anything. A few people have gone, yeah, I'm that old. Sorry about that, guys. Right, so it's a complete and utter practical solution. Like, whatever is wrong with your car or bike, it's written in this fucking manual. I really believe, as a submissive, it's really worth writing, and a top as well, if you want to. Write your own Haynes manual about yourself. This is how to handle me when. This is how I respond physiologically, emotionally. These are the things you need to know about me. It's really good to do. I'm naturally a redhead. I'm not. Or I have ADHD and autism. This is how it impacts me, because I know we like to think that we're not all the same. All of you with ADHD, fuck off. I'm the tidiest person you've ever met. You should see my house. It's fucking fully... You're laughing because it's been to my house. Honestly, even my utility room, it's all labelled. My larder, everything is in perfect jars with the right sort of label on as well. Yeah, but you've got ADHD. Well, I've also got autism. Which one wins at that point? But everything is fully structured. Fucking nightmare. If you want to ask me where it is, I can tell you exactly where it is. Because if I don't, the chaos I live with is unreal. So we're not all the same. So writing something like a Haynes manual is a really good lifetime investment for yourself. Don't go on a first date and go, hello, darling, this is my full manual. It's a bit much. But you could refer to a little bit of it and introduce someone, and someone might say, have you got a writing about that? I've got the whole fucking book. And we need to update it as well, because we change over time and makes a real difference. Plus our responses to pain change, depending on our age, depending if we get the menopause, perimenopause, whether we find out we are neurodivergent. The biggest amount of people being diagnosed at the moment is actually perimenopausal women. Because all of a sudden they're going, fuck, I don't have any dopamine. And you're also going to find a lot of women with estrogen-based cancer who are also finding out the same. Because when we then put estrogen blockers in place, it's like you're in the menopause. So all of a sudden, those people are going, oh, it must be the chemo. It might not be. And that's really interesting as well. It might actually be that you're potentially some form of neurodivergent, which a lot of us are. It's also, honestly, don't get me started, we'll be here for days. But these are the questions we could and should be asking, and they're really important to ask. For example, a shock collar or something, even regardless of its placement, if you have POTS and you're lying down and you get shocked and your instant reaction is to sit up fast, it might not be the shock or the collar, but anyone here got POTS? Yeah. You stand up fast, you're on your fucking arse again very quickly, potentially, or you could pass out. Might have nothing to do with the collar. It might be about your reaction. And actually, if anyone's got any sense, if they know you've got POTS and you're about to have a collar on, about to have a shock, give them extra salt before they start. Please don't think you know how much salt they should have. It's more than the average human, however, because they're also very likely to have very low blood pressure. Have you got that as well? Yeah. So it's really interesting. A lot of neurodivergents do. It might be that they have MCAS, so they often have anyone else got that? Very different responses to skin reactions and different things. And what you think you're seeing, even from a shock, even from a different washing powder, might actually be more related to that. But again, it's a lot to ask. But I would really recommend writing out your own Haynes manual. It's such a good thing to do as a top or a bottom, or just being a bit of a kinky motherfucker, because it helps you understand yourself as well. But again, do not give it to somebody the first time you meet them. It is way too much. This is my 3,500-page book. Please read every bit before you play with me. It's a bit demanding. I think you might find you might not see them a second time. Just maybe. Right, we're at the end today. Thank you for coming. You can follow me on FetLife. I'm The Kink Shrink. If you want to read any writings, you're welcome to. If you've got a question, you can always DM me and ask me, and I'll answer it as best I can. Feel free. Really nice to meet you all. Thank you for coming.